Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Burning Questions series by Fantasy Football Scout. In this series, we talk about the hot topics for FPL this week. Today, I'm joined, as normal, by my co host, Pras. Apologies for my absence last week. I was a little bit sick. Hibbo filled in really, really well, so I appreciate that, Hibbo. Pras, how are you doing? I know you're having a busy week in life. So, how are you?
It's good. Yeah, all good, all good. We will talk about what I did over the weekend. It was not nice. I captained Salah over Haaland, but it's good. All fine, man.
Okay, so actually, let's just start there. You obviously captained Salah for good reason. I don't think there's any fault in it. I was actually very close to doing the same thing. But how do you feel about it? I mean, I think if you could speak a little bit on it, because there's definitely some managers out there who captained in and probably don't feel so great. But yeah, I just want to know your thoughts on it.
Look, I mean, I think it's lesson learned. It's hard to go against Haaland, and I wanted to do this section because I wanted to tell people about my thinking. Because in hindsight, it looks like a stupid decision.
I think you can speak a little closer, Pras, by the way.
Okay. In hindsight, it seems like a stupid decision because obviously the guy has scored 3 goals and 2 assists, and Salah got just 1 assist. So this is the text. So I'm going to read out the text that I sent to our chat. I said, I'm thinking about captaining Salah because of a few reasons. So I'm going to talk about my reasons. Okay. Reason number 1, Diaz has been playing on the West Coast on Wednesday night or Wednesday morning. Okay. And so he may not start. And when Diaz doesn't start, it helps Salah in a sense because Diaz is a little bit more selfish. Reason number 2, I think Elliott is not going to get a start this week. It's going to be Henderson. Elliott always makes Salah stick to the wing, and the triangles he forms with Trent, Salah doesn't get into the middle as much. So I was right about Diaz not starting. I was right about Elliott not starting. And the third thing I felt was Brighton has a new manager. They should concede a lot because he's more attacking, and Liverpool should get a lot of space to run in behind. I think they should score 3 goals. Also correct. Now, the fourth one is the one that I got wrong, which is Man United have looked good. They have beaten Liverpool and Arsenal. I don't see more than 3 goals in the City fixture as well. So therefore, the math in my head was, what is my downside? My downside is that Salah blanks or gets an assist and Haaland scores a brace. Mm-hmm. Not in my wildest dreams or in anyone's dreams did we expect a 3-goal, 2-assist type of performance. But look, I don't want to belabor the point. I wanted to say that this was the thought process on why we did it. I will never, ever in this stream sort of tell people, just take a punt. Just go for... Sort of had Maddison blanked, I would have blamed myself for the decision a little bit more than the Salah blank. But this is where we are. I think this is the state of FPL where it's very hard to go against Haaland. I didn't do it because I wanted to go against Haaland. I felt that Salah could outscore him. I felt that Haaland had a higher floor where he should have got 1 goal, 2 goals. You expected that. But I felt that Salah has a higher ceiling where he could have ended up with a hat-trick. He didn't. Things are not looking great for Liverpool. We will talk about Liverpool as a section later. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to get this off my chest on why I captained Salah. It wasn't a punt. I was not trying to be too clever. It was just a feeling that I had before the game where I felt Salah could genuinely outscore Haaland. But mistake made. I've moved on. I will not be captaining anyone other than Haaland until I see a minute's risk.
I mean, I'll just say this, Pras. You're an extremely pragmatic manager. Very well thought out planner as well. And the fact that you went for Salah, there was good reasons for it. So I wouldn't, fault yourself too much. Same with everybody else who might have captained Salah. I just want to say last season, I captained Kane in Gameweek 9 when Salah hauled versus Man United. And also I missed out on the Bruno captaincy, I think Gameweek 23, 24, where a lot of people captained Bruno as well. Still, rank is just a number, but I was, very close to the top 10K mark by the end of the season. So just because you miss out on these huge hauls, granted, the season is a bit different. The fact that we have a god in FPL now, but besides that point, it's 20 points. It can be made up. It's the start of the season, so don't beat yourself up. Keep going, but at the same time, don't also chase. There's no point chasing when it's game week 9. Yeah. While I say this, I want to get to a point later in the episode, Pras, where a little bit of chasing might have to be done here and there because the season is sort of a sprint more than a marathon, if you know what I mean, especially with the World Cup coming up. And I say this because I'm very interested in hearing your thoughts about what do we do with Man City and Arsenal, the two best teams in the league, assets we want, but the blank game week in 12 coming up. So lots of interesting discussions to come up. Today's agenda is packed somewhat. We have, question marks on Isak and Mitro, both injured. No concrete news as of now, but we'll sort of get into that. Then we'll talk about the midfielders. The 8.0 midfield striker or midfield slots are going absolutely nuts. So do they continue to tick along? Do they, sort of falter? We don't know yet. But they're the likes of Zaha, Foden, Bowen, Madison are all in the picture, and I'm very happy you went with Barnes. I was happy to see that. So rotating maybe the 8.0 mid slot is a viable strategy. We'll talk about defenders. Big at the back, I don't think it's dead. Personally don't think it's dead. So much to talk about there, and then some punts for the next 2 game weeks before the blank in 12, as well as sort of what to do leading up to game week 13 to 16, where all the best teams have good fixtures once again. So lots of planning right now and lots of thinking that has to go, even though there aren't clear-cut replacements for certain assets that are injured, for example. So let's get right into it, Pras.
Yep.
Okay, so
we'll forwards.
Yeah, we'll start with the forwards. Apologies for the sort of blurriness in this graph. This is my fault. If you go on the FF Scout members area, you can find a much more clear version of it. But Pras, could you explain what we have here with Jesus at the top of the chart?
It's basically sorted by XGI. So people know that who've been listening to Bunny Questions, we don't look at things other than XGI, because you can look at shots in the box, you can look at penalty area touches, all of that feeds into XGI. So you could split XG and XA just to see who is more attacking versus more creative. But quite simply, what we've done is in this table, these are all strikers under 9 million. And we've looked at so far this season how much XGI they've created per 90. So this is the issue, that Jesus has a blank coming up, who's top of the list. Isak is number 2, who's injured. Mitro could be injured, who's number 3. Firmino is number 4, who's never been a Liverpool option, but we can talk about him when we come to the Liverpool section. Then you have nothingness. Basically, all these guys under 0.6 XGI. You have Mopé, you have Watkins. So Watkins, I want to spend a second on because he was absolutely fantastic over the weekend. He had an XG of 1.2 and he didn't score. So he's actually the most underperforming player over the weekend, and he plays Forest next. Then you have Tony, then you have Wilson. So rather than reading out the list itself, it's a good topic because you've got Isak and Mitro. Tell me, what are you thinking? Who are the players on your mind? And then let's debate them.
Yeah, so initial instinct is there's no particular striker I want to get to besides Jesus, but obviously the blank is in the way. So I think that's a wait, unfortunately. I know people are talking about Wilson. He's firmly on my mind as well. I just think Wilson's such a baller of a footballer. So I don't think I can go wrong there. I'm not so keen on Tony. If you look at sort of what Tony's done over the past 9 game weeks, he's had 117-point haul. I think he's had like an 8 or 9 pointer, which is great. But he's also had a bunch of 1 or 2 pointers. So Tony is just for his valuation, it's pretty good, but it's also very unpredictable in my opinion. And it's very interesting you mentioned Watkins, because my opinion on Watkins differs from you, Pras. I watched this extended highlights because I knew he was very involved. But 2 things. First of all, in the first half, Leeds put on a pretty decent show, right? And Rodrigo is a sleeper here, guys. And I thought it was a back and forth type of match. And Watkins had big XGI, had a bunch of, maybe big chances or one-on-one situations with, the keeper in front of him. Second half, you have to remember game state. There was the red card Sinistra, I think around 47-minute mark, 48-minute mark. Yep. So that changed the total game and probably, increased his stats, right? But XGI for Watkins was good, but his finishing was absolutely dreadful, right? And I'm not saying it's the easiest one-on-one chances. It wasn't the easiest one-on-one chances, but he just it's the Watkins that we know, right? Just like there was also a big chance in the second half where it was like a tap in into an open goal. Granted, it came off the bar, I believe, and he missed it. And it was like, oh wow, like I know if I bring this guy in, I'm gonna have to endure this pain of missing very easy chances. But if because there is no standout, I do understand why people would go for him. I also want to talk about Firmino because Firmino is
Let's
what?
stay on Watkins
Okay,
first.
go ahead.
Let's stay on Watkins first. Okay, look, fine, game state, I get it. But, and I also agree with you that, look, Gerrard has basically, from all what we're hearing from the fans, they've gone into this nutshell of we're just going to defend a lot better and then we will be more pragmatic in our attacking. So agree with that. But you're trying to get a slice of a player who's going to play Nottingham Forest. And now we know stats are irrelevant. I bought Barnes ahead of Nottingham Forest, not because Barnes had pathetic stats, but he ended up scoring a goal.
Exactly.
Maddison scores these goals. So what we're simply saying is there's going to be goals in the Nottingham Forest goal. So they're going to score 2 or 3. You want a share of those 2 or 3. Watkins is not a bad shout. And then the other thing is he then plays Chelsea, which is the harder fixture in 11. Then he plays Fulham away and Brentford at home. So I think right now, if you were to tell me there are 3 teams that you want to target from an attacking perspective, I think Nottingham Forest, Fulham, and Brentford would be there, not even Bournemouth. And we'll talk about Bournemouth. Why? Because Bournemouth have basically decided we're just shutting down shop with this new temporary manager. So Bournemouth for me is not as an attacking fixture. In fact, Bournemouth is a very good defensive fixture because Bournemouth have refused to attack, essentially. That you can see in their XG numbers as well. So I feel like if you have 3 out of the next 4 fixtures, which are excellent attacking fixtures, then I think you can do worse than going for Nolly Watkins. And we're only talking the next 3-4 weeks because after that, you're going to transition him to a Jesus or whoever else that you want from the big teams, right?
Yeah, totally fair. I 100% agree with you. The statements I made was this is what I watched from this game, but fixtures breed form, and his next 3 fixtures, granted, he does have Chelsea, I think, in 11, but that nice slot in Game Week 12 where they play Fulham and you need players to cover. So, makes sense, and you can hop off him because his price point allows you to get to Jesus in 13 or 14 or whenever it may be. Yeah.
Right. So, and then you mentioned Wilson. I think, again, Wilson, you can't go wrong with him. He's part of an attack that is looking much, much better, and they've shown that since second half of last season. He's going to be up top, even if Isak comes back. So as long as he's fit, Wilson is never a bad shout. So who else are you thinking about?
I toyed with the idea of call me crazy, but for Firmino as well as Jota as well as Nunes, and I just like all this Liverpool talk about them being not at their best and this and that, but it's just like that inkling to still want them, right? You just still want the players from the best teams if possible, and you just have that belief that they'll be able to turn it around. But it's just too much minutes risk. As good as Firmino has been, maybe he doesn't start. Maybe he gets starts, but it's probably a 70-minute thing. So I'm going to stay away from those 3 for now until we have a clearer picture of who's like the bona fide starter for this team, because now with Champions League in full swing and Lego Mane's chart, you can see their fixture congestion is insane. So I think there's going to be a lot of rotation, and it's too much money up top in order to cater to that. So I'm staying away from the Liverpool assets.
Let me just do a word on Liverpool. So we may have noticed over the weekend, over the midweek, they changed formations, right? So they basically went to a 4-4-2, almost like a 4-4-2, which is basically you have your back 4, which is the same. Now you have Henderson and Thiago sitting back, almost like, they're doing dual Kante roles, and they're not coming forward as much. Then you have Salah more on the wing. You have on the left side, you have Diaz more on the wing, and then you have Jota and Nunes in this case who played up top. So what does this mean? It means that number one, we need to watch out if this is a formation that they stick with. Obviously, they did this versus Rangers. They might do it more going forward. It was essentially to protect Trent. And there was a very good video that Zoff shared from Tifo, which explained why they're trying to do this. They're trying to basically cut the gap, which is behind Trent, that teams are trying to exploit. So defensively, this works better. Attacking-wise, it actually, I think, means great for Jota. Because Jota is a guy who's got an eye for goal. Now, he's also not the best finisher, but he's there to get the chances. So him, Nunes, Diaz, and Salah, I think if they're part of the four, then you get more minutes. Obviously not in Salah's case, but for the others, you get more minutes out of them, and you get less rotation. And the thing with Firmino is he's always had good underlines, and this year he's finishing better. I can see it, but I just don't think he's as nailed of an option. I could totally see them even moving to a formation where Salah is the one up top instead of Nunes. Jota moves to the right. Firmino sits in behind, because they've played that in the past. The famous Watford game where Salah scored a 29 pointer or something in 2 seasons ago. He was playing up top in a front four. So the implications of the change in Liverpool's formation can be, it could be good for Trent in the sense that it could be more clean sheets. It could be bad for Trent in the sense that he doesn't move forward. And we'll come to a average positions when we come to the Trent discussion later. It could be good for Salah in the sense that he could get more wide because he was swapping with Nunes a lot as well. It could be good for Salah in the sense that he could play up front in and out of position. It could be bad for Salah because he can maybe play like a wing back. I mean, if you look at his average positioning, he was basically same as Tsimikas in the game. So it could be terrible for him. So the problem with Liverpool is you're taking a punt. And I envy people who don't have Liverpool assets right now. They can sit back, watch for the next 3 games against Arsenal, against City, another Champions League game, and then they decide if they want to jump on them or not. And I feel as an owner of Trent and Salah that it's not great. It's a little, it feels like a punt right now, owning Liverpool assets. And if you have them, I'm still inclined to hold them. But if you're not feeling it, I'm also not sort of stopping you from saying, from selling them for someone else. So it's very tricky. So don't go there, I would say, for at least on Liverpool assets for now.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting because normally when you have your Trent and Salah and the idea is that in 13 they're supposed to come good, right? Just because of the fixtures. The pragmatic answer would be to definitely save them, right? But it's just one of those seasons where the cost of these next 3 game weeks are very hard to actually calculate in terms of how much points are you missing out by not going for the better assets in these next 2 just because you're trying to cater to this blank in 12. So I think you have a big dilemma on your hands because with the Trent money, Pras, you could probably do a lot of different things and a lot of exciting things. But I'm very interested to hear your team thoughts as we move there at the end.
We'll come to my team. Yeah. I have strong feelings that Trent has to stay in my team. Because of his price. Because of the fact that I still think he'll beat other 8 million mids over the course of the long run.
I want to ask you about 2 very kind of important players in terms of the striker slots. First one would be Tony and then Solanke. And just to know what your thoughts are on those 2 players.
I think Tony is a good pick. He's always been a good pick. He will tick along. He's on penalties. Brentford are more attacking this year. The reason I didn't go for Tony on my wildcard was what I discussed in the previous stream, where I'm looking at what team I want from Game Week 12, and Tony is not in it. And until Game Week 12, Tony has tough fixtures. I mean, he plays Chelsea, he plays
Newcastle, Brighton.
And Brighton. Brighton is a good fixture now from an attacking perspective. So, look, two tough ones in the next 3. And then after 12, I'd rather have Jesus. I know he's a million more, but that's my issue with going Tony.
Gotcha.
So there's lots of options people are going to throw out at you right now. I think the big picture view is if you can hold off on selling Mitros, hold off unless he's out for very long. But if you have Isak, then look for a replacement. The replacement has to be somebody who fits in your structure of where you want to go in Game Week 12. That may mean that Greenwood is the better option, that you actually want more money in midfield, which is ironic because 3 weeks ago we were saying there's no midfielders other than Salah and Martinelli, and all our money is going to some defenders and to attackers.
Yeah,
that's how quickly FPL changes. Where now we're talking money in midfield, and now we may not even need the third attacker. So, and then your second one that you asked me was who? Sorry,
Solanke.
Solanke is a budget enabler. He's not a pick.
Yeah.
You don't pick him to have a player for the rest of the 7 game weeks. You pick him so that you can afford someone else. So let's say in your case, you wanted to get to a 8 million midfielder from the Martinelli position, and you can downgrade Isak to Solanke, and Martinelli can become Foden, for example. Then yeah, fine. Solanke is great. But I think independently, I just talked about Bournemouth. They're not intent on attacking. Their numbers aren't looking great. Fixtures will bring goals.
Mm-hmm.
You saw that with Bowen. You saw that with Maddison. When fixtures improve, magically players improve.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, Solanke is going to score between now and the next 3-4 game weeks. He will score. But is that enough? Are you going to play him every week? That's what hinges on Solanke.
Yeah, it depends what you do with that money elsewhere. Some interesting options I do want to speak on is Martial. I know Martial, off to a pretty decent start to the season, and he has what? He's fit. He's back. He came off the bench. Looked pretty decent. Granted, United, it's a shot in the dark, right? But I think his next fixture is Everton. Is this an option that you would consider partially? Possibly, Pras?
No. I mean, he's not. We don't know how fit he is. The one fixture that he has that is good in the next 4 is Everton away, which is now.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about Everton. They're looking better defensively. Man United should win the game.
Yep.
And I've not sort of gone bearish on Man United just after the Man City game. Man City are unreal. And the way we gave them respect in that game was unreal. And I don't even say second half Man United did better because Man City just put their foot off the gas. I mean, had we had another first half a week later, they will thrash us again. But that has nothing to do with Man United's progress. I think the team is getting better. But I'm just saying no to Martial because Rashford is still now fit. Ronaldo is still around. Eventually, he will take the spot. But what you don't want is he has another cameo against Everton. And the next 3 fixtures you're looking at are Newcastle, Tottenham, and Chelsea. So that's my issue with Martial. So I don't want to we don't need to sort of guide people to buy him. It's just very punty.
Yeah, it's very punty. I just want to say one thing on United is that one thing I really like about Ten Hag and Potter as well, compared to someone like Conte, not just a personal thing, is that they're very surprisingly adaptable. I knew Potter was a very flexible manager, but Ten Hag, when he first came in, he wants to play the City style, possession based, to control the game. That's his philosophy, right? And he's realized that this United group of players cannot do that. And so if you look at his first 2 starts or third start, his possession for United was drastically higher. And then he realized that he can't do this anymore. So now they're playing a very counter-attacking style, sort of sitting back and using Rashford on the run. So just to keep an eye out. I don't think the thrashing this weekend was, the end of the story, if that's a phrase that makes sense.
No, definitely not. We're winning the league in 3 years. So it's just the beginning.
Perfect. Last thing is Welbeck. I know you mentioned him, Pras. For me, he's just a no-go. He's been involved throughout the entire season. I've watched a couple of Brighton games where Welbeck should have been scoring at least 1 or 2, but that's just Welbeck, right? Just another player like Watkins who's unable to get the ball in the net for whatever particular reason.
Welbeck is good. Why? See, we should not focus on finishing ability. We should focus on getting the chances.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
He's getting the chances. He had like 0.6 XGI in the game against Liverpool. It looks like it'll be him and Trossard, the 2 guys who will sort of be up top. Now, Undav could get a spot. With a new manager, that's the risk. He's trying stuff, right? So you don't know when that switches and when he wants to try another player in that position. So absent that, I think Welbeck has looked a lot fitter. His finishing has always been average. But if they're going to be creating so many chances like they did against Liverpool, you want a piece of that. And you're getting a piece of that for under 7 million. Then Welbeck is a decent shout. Now, obviously, we'll come to Trossard and whether that's the option you go with. But does he take up a midfield slot or how you sort of fit him in? But I think if you're having a short-term issue and you wanted to plug the gap, I think Welbeck isn't bad at all.
Yeah, they do play Nottingham Forest in Gameweek 12, so that's a sneaker of a move, certainly. So, I defer with you. I get it. I get 0.6 XGI, 0.55 XGI in the game, but just doesn't fill me with confidence. But for his price point, decent shout. Yeah.
Three more names that I want to talk about. I'll be quick. So Daka or Vardy.
Yeah. Yep.
So for all the reasons I went, Barnes and Maddison double attack right now, it just feels good to me. So if you can nail down now, Leicester's fixture is the first one in Game Week 10. Well, they're part of a group of teams that play at 3 p.m. So if we get an inkling, for example, we had some leaks before the last game. If we get an inkling that Daka is starting, I think that's a good shout. The only issue is that it's a very short-termish punt because now Vardy also looked okay. And by the way, Vardy's interplay, even though he didn't do too much in the game from an attacking point of view, he linked up very well with Barnes. I saw that he was going left and Barnes was coming inside, or in cases he was sort of being the one holding up the ball and feeding Maddison through. So I think Vardy didn't do badly at all. So I don't see why he would sort of be subbed for the next game. So because of that, I think both of them become minutes risk and both of them become non-options. But watch out for team news if you get anything. Second one is
one thing just on that, Pras. My only concern with Daka is his minutes. It's the last 3 games he's played: 90 minutes, 73 minutes, and 28 minutes. I know he came off as a sub and scored a goal, so I get it. But it is a very big minutes risk. So watch out for that team news, as you mentioned, for this week. If it is very, very short-term punt. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you have from West Ham, Scamacca. Obviously, he's got pedigree in the Italian league before coming to West Ham. It was always a matter of when he takes Antonio's place, not if. And it looks like he did start the last game. He could be the one who gets a look in. You will see West Ham's lineup today. So if Antonio is the one starting today, Scamacca could be a good shout for the West Ham fixtures, which are decent. I mean, up until game week 16, West Ham's fixtures are very good. So that's another shout. And the last but not least is our friend Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He played last night. He scored last night. And the Potter engine has started to work. They won 3-0. It was a very, very weak Milan side, right? So I don't want to sort of... So, but if anyone can make Aubameyang tick, it's Potter. And if he starts, he's going to be involved. So he's 9 million. It's a difficult price point. But if you were to say, I want to have Aubameyang for the next 3 weeks, when let me see. I had looked earlier and he's got good next 3, which is basically Wolves at home, Aston Villa away, and Brentford away. So you get those good next 3, and then you can transition him to a Jesus. So there is an option to do that. My only caveat is he had 1 shot, 1 goal last game. So don't go by just, Aubameyang's great because he scored last game. Ultimately go by the fact that he had 1 shot, not by the fact that he had 1 goal the last game. So that's basically something to worry.
But a striker's scoring. That's all that matters, right? As important as involvement is, he is scoring. For Chelsea fans,
he also loves Broja. He also loves Broja.
Yep.
So that's the other problem, that you may just have a odd game where Broja plays instead of Oba.
I love Potter. I also, he brings in Gallagher for Havertz, which is the right thing to do. Gallagher needs to be playing towards the box, and he's not a deep lying midfielder the way Tuchel was using him. So good stuff to see. I think Chelsea Potter ball is starting to roll for sure, and we'll get to that.
All right. So before we move on, so that was attackers. Can you rank me your top 3 replacements? Because you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I am thinking about it.
I'm putting you a little bit on the spot.
I think if you're going to go for the price points, right, similar price points, my first option would be Wilson. And then I think I would go Watkins as my second option at that price point. But if I'm going to go...
you have to pick standalone. Which striker do you like the most after Kane and Mitrovic?
Jesus then, for sure.
Sorry, Haaland and Mitrovic.
Jesus, no doubt.
Yeah, but you won't buy Jesus now, right?
Yeah, I won't.
So then who do you like?
Oh man, putting me on the spot here. 1 second. Give me 1 second.
All right, I'll do mine.
Okay.
So I think at the moment I would go. I mean, like I did on my wildcard, I would take money out of that spot, and I would try to put it in somewhere else in midfield, perhaps, if that can enable something. So I would still say Solanke is a good pick. Unfortunately,
I'm thinking about Solanke. Yeah,
going 2 up top with a Greenwood or somebody is also a good pick. But if I was to be forced to say you have to pick a striker for the next 3, then I would say I like Welbeck a lot. I like Wilson a lot. So those would be my 2.
Interesting. One thing about going to a bench fodder, and I think this is very important, is So I have Isaac and Mitrovic. So I was thinking about going Isaac to Greenwood or whoever is a 4.3, but that doesn't work because which is why Solanke becomes such a iffy price point. Because I thought if he was like a 5.1, 5.2, that those funds are extremely useful, but at 5.7, it's a very kind of iffy price point. So I was thinking about going to a 4.3 bench fodder and then, really having a lot of funds to get to possibly 5 in the midfield and have the likes of Madison plus, Bowen plus Zaha. But the reason I can't do that is because right now I have Cancelo, Martinelli, as well as Holland, and then a bench fodder is basically, the fourth City or Arsenal
Then you
player.
have 4 non-playing players.
Essentially, yeah. In Game Week 12, I have 4 non-playing players, so that idea is shot out the window, and that's why I'm really struggling with this. Because I don't love Solanke, but he might have to be the one I have to do and make him my first off the bench type of player. So interesting.
This is why I had to sacrifice Martinelli.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was having the same problem on my wild card where I didn't want a third forward, but I also wanted minimum two City.
Yeah.
So then if you have Martinelli as well, then you have a non-playing player in 12.
I mean, just the key fact here is that you can have 3 non-playing players in Game Week 12, but that doesn't mean a lot because you're playing freaking, like Neco Williams and Andreas, so you really can't go for a Greenwood and have 3 really shitty players in your team. They're great players, but in FPL terms, not good. So,
all right. Yeah. Okay, let's go to mids.
Okay. Okay, so go ahead.
Look, the mids topic, when we introduced it, it was like, should we go Zaha or not? It sounds very simple. Obviously, go Zaha. He's got amazing fixtures over the next 7 game weeks. Leeds, Leicester, Wolves, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Nottingham Forest. Doesn't get better than this. The best fixtures over the next 7. So the question isn't whether you go Zaha, it's when you go Zaha. Because the problem a lot of people have is they've got a heavy midfield. They've got Martinelli, they've got De Bruyne, or some have got Foden, Saka, Martinelli. Sorry, I talked about Martinelli. And who else? Madison. So it's a full midfield.
Yep.
And people feel like this is not the time that they can jump off because Bowen still got good fixtures. We've got them up on the ticker here. He plays Fulham at home and then he plays Southampton away. Madison can't be sold. He plays Bournemouth away, Crystal Palace home, Leeds at home, Wolves away. So therefore, the dilemma is, shall we be selling these players to get Zaha now, or can we wait a week or two? And that's the problem. And some have actually 2 free transfers. What a great luxury to have, where they have 2 free transfers. They want to get Zaha, but they don't have a route to get to Zaha. That's the one we want to address, which is, what do you do? So we both have Zaha. You have Zaha as well, right?
I have Zaha. Very, very happy with Zaha.
His underlyings are absolutely amazing. They're better than Martinelli's. They're better than Bowen, Madison. He's one that you want in your team. He's also on penalties, unlike Madison, Bowen. Bowen actually theoretically is on. And
that Chelsea game, Crystal Palace, at least I remember the first 20, 30 minutes were really good attacking-wise. And Zaha could have easily been on the ball, on the cross. I can't remember who scored, but what I actually did this week, Pras, even we're going to the mid-sections now, but I was also looking for a possible double-up on Zaha plus another Crystal Palace attacker. Just to see if there's an option there, and the issue is the minutes and rotation risk. So it's too tough to go there, unfortunately.
Ulise, Edward, they're all rotation.
They just keep rotating. Yeah, but they're so good. There's just a bunch of amazing football beasts that are attacking all the time, and I love the fact that I have Zaha in my team. Zaha should be a priority transfer if you don't have him. And shout out to FPL Zaha. I see you in the chat. I know you interact with us a lot on Twitter, and I'm sure he's happy we're boasting about Zaha. So I'm happy with him.
I would like to caution a little bit. What I'm trying to say is, if you've got Bowen and Madison, Martinelli, and De Bruyne and Andreas Pereira, let's say that's your midfield, there is no route to get Zaha this week. I wouldn't sell Bowen before Fulham at home. I wouldn't sell Madison for sure. So unless you've got a Saka, I think is a more easy way. So Saka to Zaha, I think is a no-brainer, given that he has. It's still a tricky one. Because look, we've talked about Liverpool's defensive problems. I think Arsenal will score a goal or two against Liverpool, and then they have Leeds away. So it's not as easy, but I think it's a move you do because you want Zaha for the next 7 game weeks. So I see it. But this is my whole problem. This is why we wanted to dedicate a section here. It's not so straightforward. Yes, it's very okay to say I want Zaha, but for who?
Okay.
So in your case,
I zoned out a little bit. Can you say the who you would have in order to get Zaha again? Mm-hmm.
So Martinelli and Andreas Pereira, most teams have,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Then if you have Bowen, Foden, or
Madison. Mm-hmm.
or De Bruyne,
Mm-hmm.
you can't sell anyone of them.
Yeah, you can't sell anyone. Yeah. Damn.
So it's not so straightforward to go for Zaha.
Yeah, because I want all of them, right? All of them are good. So I get it. I guess the one that I would do is possibly Martinelli, possibly. But that's a guy you're going to bring in eventually anyway. So you're losing value, and I do agree with you. He might excel against Liverpool. So,
and this is why we've done this. The burning questions in the reverse order, where we talked about strikers first and then midfielders. Now you see the issue. Now when you think about your strikers, think about what money do you need in midfield to get to the players that you want to get to. So for me, actually, people should look to sell Andreas Pereira. But because he's playing in game week 12, people can't.
Yeah, but Pras, you can't upgrade Andres Pereira to one of those that we just mentioned unless you go to a Greenwood, which is not possible. Yeah.
And that's the game week 12 dilemma, because Greenwood doesn't play game week 12, and you need Andres Pereira to play game week 12. That's the issue. So it's not straightforward. I wanted to say that if I was to pick a player on my free hit, Zaha would be in it. So therefore, I wanted to have this discussion between you and me. Let's say you were on a free hit this week, only this week.
Okay.
Because I think there's no question that people want Zaha longer term.
Okay.
What is your midfield? I'm again putting you on the spot. So if I think you want Foden.
Okay. Right? No. Let me begin.
Okay.
Number 1 is Son.
Okay. Obviously.
But okay, Son out of the equation. Madison would be number 1. Foden. Probably Bowen over Zaha, and then Martinelli possibly. Yeah.
So you're saying don't sell Bowen for Zaha this week?
Don't sell Bowen for Zaha this week. Yeah.
So that's where I was landing as well. That find another solution in your team, whether that means downgrading a striker you don't need, or a defender. Maybe you have a Patterson that you want to get rid of. I don't think this is the week. You have to get Zaha.
It is Leeds, though. It is Leeds.
I know he would be on my free hit as well, but I would have Foden, Madison, Bowen, Zaha on my free hit if I had, and then De Bruyne as the 5th. But money is tight, and we can't just play Haaland up top because on free hit you could.
Yeah.
But in reality, because we are looking for the game week 12 blank, we can't.
We can't. You cannot.
So
you can't get everyone.
Problem.
Yep.
So think about a route, and you don't have to go for. If you have an Arsenal asset for Saka, I think you can. Even for Martinelli, I'm trying not to be too down on Martinelli because I've sold him, so I don't want to sound biased.
He doesn't have Martinelli, guys.
Yeah. So I want to have full disclosure. Sometimes content creators say, sell this guy, and then you look at their team and they go, okay, well, now we know why you're saying sell this guy. Yeah. So I don't want to be too down. Martinelli is a fantastic player, easily the best player under 7 million that you can get long term.
Yep.
But right now we're in a 7 game week sprint, as you called it, with a problem in game week 12, and you're trying to solve it. If it means that you're at the sake of burning a transfer, if you can afford a Zaha instead of a Martinelli by releasing funds somewhere, I would prefer that to doing Bowen to Zaha. That's basically what I was thinking.
Yeah. I was very surprised you sold Martinelli on your wild card. Very, very surprised with that. But it just goes to show that 12 was playing on your mind, and I hope it works out for you the next 2 game weeks.
Well, we see I'm up 4 points with Barnes. Barnes scored 8, Martinelli scored 4. If I break even and Barnes can get me, equal points as Martinelli over the next 2, and then he obviously has a game in 12 and Martinelli doesn't, then 100% I'm going to get Martinelli back for Barnes after that.
What I have a this is out kind of out of the blue question. How do we calculate like let's say who is the midfielder you want if 12 wasn't a factor, it's probably Foden, right? And
Yeah.
if we're let's call it hall chasing, right? If there's one player I want this game week, it has to be Foden. Rested in the Champions League. Southampton are shambolic right now. I think also Southampton's coach is on the verge of getting fired. So just a bad state that they're in, right? And Man City is just a godly team right now, and Foden is a different breed. Throughout the beginning part of the season, you saw Gundogan and KDB sort of make the runs inside, play the shadow striker, but this game you saw Foden and Grealish cut inside and KDB making overlapping runs. So this is just how good these guys are. They can
That
do
was
anything.
so hard to manage.
So
man.
hard
I
to
was
manage.
watching him and
Yeah.
Bernardo Silva do that, and it was impossible.
Who do you guard? And then you have Cancelo behind just lurking around like I'm the best left back, right back in the world, just, anytime ready to go. So this team is incredible, right? And so I want Foden. I want Foden so bad. Like I do anything to get Foden, but then 12 comes into play. So how do you calculate this? Is it Foden plus a 0-pointer that you accept, or is it Foden plus 2 transfers? Do you accept? How would you think of it, Pras? If you
Well,
do you
it's
know what I'm
always
saying?
expected points. Yeah, but it's always expected points. That's how you calculate it.
Mhm.
How much do you think Foden scores in the next game? Mind you, he plays Liverpool next. Again, you can argue how that game will go, but looking at the Rangers game, Liverpool should be more pragmatic. This is also true for the Arsenal game, by the way. So if he's more pragmatic, then you could argue that there's 2 goals in it. But I was wrong about the pragmatic thing. And how do you stop City with Man United? So maybe I'm wrong with Liverpool as well. Maybe they thrashed them. But my problem with Foden is I get your excitement, and I think we've been singing Foden's praises for 2 seasons now, even when he was
Since
a minutes
last
risk.
season,
Now that he's not a minutes risk or less of a minutes risk, of course he's a good pick. But the problem is going to be we need to have a City discussion on who are the 3 picks you want.
Yeah.
Because do you want De Bruyne and Haaland and Foden? Do you want Foden and Haaland and Cancelo, or another combination like that? So, or what most people have right now is De Bruyne, Haaland, and Cancelo. So that's basically what you need to decide in your mind. And if you think that you don't want a second premium, because a meta strategy, I feel, after game week 16, it may not happen before, but if we're seeing a lot of people, basically everyone captaining Haaland, then a meta strategy could simply be that I'm going to have a bunch of 8 million mids in midfield. I'm going to have Haaland. I'm going to have 2 good strikers. I don't want a second premium. If Haaland is injured, then I will.
Yep.
So it could become that. And in that case, you won't even have a De Bruyne. You just have Foden, Cancelo, and Haaland. So
Yep.
I want to answer your question. What people need to do is, how do you measure that? Go with your team. See, these are my players. This is the points I expect from these guys.
Okay.
And then obviously in game week 12, your team will suffer because you'll only put 9 or 10 players out. If you think that loss in expected points is enough to make up for, or small enough to make up for the points gain that you will have around it, then fine, go with 10 players. I personally don't think so, because it's very hard to predict hauls unless it's Haaland, right? Even for a De Bruyne, even for a Foden, it's very hard to predict hauls. And what you want is minutes. Minutes is king. And if you're playing for an attacking team and you're getting minutes, then you will be involved.
Yeah.
But if you're saying I'm going to do it at the risk of putting out 9 players in game week 12, I don't think that's as sensible.
I know people are saying, Foden doesn't hat trick all the time. You missed this haul. You could argue that you missed this haul, this and that. And I'm very well aware of what having Foden is like. Last season, just like so involved. Seems like he's going to score 2 or 3 every game, but comes off with a 2-pointer and this and that. But it just feels different this season. It feels like Foden is not only is his age going up, he's becoming an integral part of Pep's plan. He's always been part of Pep's plan, but just probably might be the second, third, fourth best player on this Man City team. So I think this Foden has the potential to score 20 goals in the league. That's how good this guy is, right?
He could. But again, being cautious, I would like to say the way Pep plays, you cannot predict, other than Haaland, who will do well in that match. Because you could have a match in which Cancelo is the one bombing forward.
Yep.
or cutting in, where Foden is giving the width. So Foden will hug the touchline for a whole game, and you'll feel like I've been unlucky. No, it's just Pep doing his Pep things, and he's basically in that particular game, he feels that Foden
Went
is better to
inside.
provide
Yep.
the width.
Yep.
And in some particular games, he could say that, look, I don't want that, and I want Foden to cut. That was particular to Manchester United that happened, and he did great. But that does not stop Pep from saying that in another game, I'm going to play Foden differently. Maybe Foden plays differently when he is with Mahrez versus when he plays with Grealish, when he plays on the right versus when he plays on the left, when he plays KDB and Bernardo Silva versus when he plays Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, or Gundogan and KDB. So it's very hard to predict. Foden is a long-term pick. It's not a short-term pick.
Agree.
So if you're doing it at the expense of a blanker in Game Week 12, it feels a little bit risky.
Agree.
So that's the thing.
Fair. That's totally fair. And yeah, same thing happened to Gundogan. He was playing, up top next to Holland, and now as deep as possible. But one thing is for sure, Holland is Holland. But what Holland brings to this team is he eases the pressure off of all the players around him and makes them better. And that's a great thing to see in any football team. So. Yeah, fun to watch Man City play.
So we've landed on Zaha is a great pick, but if your team is not allowing it, you don't have to force it. But look, he's going to do well this week. So that's what I wanted to do. Why don't you talk about Son now that we're talking about midfielders, and we've done a good section on City and we've talked about De Bruyne. Tell me about Son. What are you thinking?
Sure thing. First of all, maybe a moment of silence or rest in peace to the fitness coach at Spurs. I understand he passed away, I think, today. So rest in peace. And I think Conte canceled his press conference. So really sad. Really sad. Things, some things are more important than football. And we'll see how this affects this team. But I know it's a dark time at Tottenham Hotspur. So, yeah. Speaking on Sonny, where do we start? So, obviously...
Oh, I see you've got your slides out for Sonny. Nice.
Yep. So, first thing is that Arsenal game, we need to give credit to where credit is due, which is Arsenal, and they were fantastic, right? And they're a different breed this year, and I'm very excited to see how far they go. I think they showed their guts and performance against a top team, so a great win for Arsenal. The Frankfurt game was sort of a mixed bag, not the best from either side. And one of the main issues, the biggest issue right now for Spurs is that they rely so much on Kane and the counter-attacking system. And when Kane is not performing, then this team suffers. As much as Kane needs Son needs Kane just as much or even more. Kane is just the most important player to this team, right? And I know people are saying Kane is tugging along with his points and he's doing pretty well in terms of FPL. Yeah, that's fine. But he's not performing to the level that we're used to and the player that we're used to seeing. A couple of heavy touches, one tempo too late, kind of inaccurate passes. And on the counter, what happens is Kane has to do all this hold-up play. So the ball, he drops in deep, holds the defender behind him, makes one turn, and then a knifing pass to a running Richarlison, or it could be a Kulusevski or obviously Son, right? And all you need from Spurs is not high XG. That's not the stat you want to look for in Spurs. You just need Spurs to get one or two chances on the break because you have one of the best finishers in the best finisher in the league in Son, and one of the best passers and after Haaland, sorry, and one of the best passing strikers in Kane. And this combination is just, it's a simple formula that's not working, right? And against Frankfurt, Kane's passing percentage was 63%, and normally he's around the 75 to 80% mark. Kane also only won one duel out of 5 ground duels. So that just shows that he's like not winning these duels with the defender marking against him because he's just unable to, like Richarlison and Son were making some decent runs and they were unable to find him. Richarlison had a bad game. He was a mess. Lots of turnovers, lost the ball quite a bit. He did have a few chances. This is Champions League, by the way. Son also didn't have the greatest game. He had a few missed touches and a couple missed shots, especially the Arsenal game. Son wasn't at his best. I think it's mainly because of tiredness. long travel to Korea and 10 hours back and then 90 minutes during international break. But I want to say that Son's overall movement was really, really good this game. I think he could have had a huge haul against Frankfurt. So, a couple assists, couple of goals. It's just that the lack of finishing and lethalness was there. And the Perisic and Son dilemma has always been a problem. But what I'm showing up here is that there was a little bit of a change this game where Perisic was kind of stationed more wide as I wanted him to be. And Son was still making those cutting runs inside. But the difference is that if you look at this graphic, Son now is playing a free role where he's finding the half pockets of space and half spaces to make those runs in behind. So you can see him make a run down here, and then you can see Perisic up top. So essentially, situations like this is the last image I have up here. And this is not where Kane wins a duel, but he's on the free, and you have a running Son. And we're so used to him making that perfect pass to Son. And this is happening continuously in all 8 or 9 games that's happened this season. It's just the goals aren't coming. It's just whether
You're
it's
blaming Kane for Son's form.
It's Kane's form and Son's form. It's both of their form. I'm not saying Son is playing great. That's not what I'm saying. It's just their two most important players have to click, and it's not clicking is a point. So I go into game week 9 with a lot of confidence. Actually, I think that Son has a chance to do well this game week. Yeah.
Okay. And what are the dynamics with? So obviously Emerson is suspended now for the next 3 game weeks. Kulusevski is not back, or we don't know because Conte didn't have the presser, so we don't know. Kulusevski makes a big difference in terms of how they set up and who will play on the right. Who do you think on the wing back will he have? Will it be Perisic on the right and Sessegnon on the left?
I think Perisic will continue to stay on the left. The one game
So who's
Perisic
on the right?
On the left.
So who will play on the right?
Royale.
Doherty is not
This
He's
because he's suspended. Yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know.
So for me, what the things you need to think about as a Son owner is who will play wing back. If it's not Perisic on Son's side, that's good for Son. But is it good for his X minutes? Last time Perisic played on the right, he preferred Richarlison on the left to receive his crosses. Number 1.
Yeah,
Number
I'll answer
2,
that. Go ahead.
Okay. And then the second thing is if Kulusevski is not fit, Richarlison can easily play on the left, but who will play on the right? So can Son play on the right or not? I don't know. And then the last one is, could they, now that Kulusevski is out, go to a 3-5-2, which is going to be fantastic for Son?
Please.
So what's your view there?
Yeah, I'm very frustrated with Conte. I think Conte is just too stubborn sometimes and just not adaptable. And even in-game changes are always late. Champions League has always been his bogey league, and it's frustrating because you have these options to mess. Like, what happened to Bissouma? Bissouma should be playing in a 3-5-2. He could become a regista. Anyway, so the reason why Perisic started on the right that one game is because Richarlison started on the left. And the entire point of Perisic being in this team is to continue to cross and make these far post crosses, which is why Richarlison started on the left. This game, Son played, I think, 90 minutes, and he was probably one of the most lethal players on Spurs. So now I'm not so worried about Son's minutes. I think moving forward, you'll see him play at least 80 and possibly 90 minutes. On the 3-5-2 question, I would love to see it happen, but Pras, I just don't trust that Conte is going to do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's not do too much Spurs talk. I know other than you, nobody else owns Spurs players anymore. I mean, they own Kane, but...
Come on, guys. Get Son. Trust me.
I don't know. Let's not talk about Spurs more, but I'd be tempted with Son to Foden if I was in your place. But
oh God, don't do this.
But
no, I'm keeping Son. I'm not advising anyone to get Son, but I'm happy with him this week. Let's see how he does.
Okay. All right. Let's go to defenders.
Okay. Okay, what do we have here? Joao Cancelo heat map.
Well, I think we talked about City already. So what I don't want to spend too much time here. What we did here is I wanted to see people basically over the weekend were I'm going Cancelo less. I'm going to go maximum 5.0 defender as my highest defender because big at the back is dead. And then obviously over the midweek, everybody raised their hands. Perisic got a clean sheet. Trent got a goal and clean sheet. James got a goal, assist, and a clean sheet. And Cancelo got an assist, no clean sheet because he was subbed off before 60 minutes. So they have sort of answered the whole thing before I could go into the analysis. I did this on a Monday. But I wanted to tell people that Cancelo is still a great pick. Trippier is still a great pick. James is still a great pick. So don't give up on defenders. Think of your new setup as possibly one where you have still three premium defenders, if not four. My wildcard team has four. And this analysis was simply to say, if you look at how Cancelo is playing, yes, he's more withdrawn. So the first slide is the heat map. If you go to the next one, it's more his underlying data.
Mm-hmm.
There is a big shift in his underlying data. There is a very big visible shift. His XGI is a third. So he was 0.3 per 90 last season. He's only 0.1 now. But my problem is that you need money somewhere. You're not getting any interest from money left in the bank if you leave it. And if you're not going for a second premium, or if you're not going for a Salah, if you're not going for a Trent necessarily, I think Cancelo is still the best defender in the game after possibly James. So that was the simple point I wanted to make. And so this section is essentially dedicated to where are the defenders, which defenders shall we get in the horizon. I think there's, you don't need to worry about Cancelo. The added point, now that Walker is injured until the World Cup, is that he may get a lot more minutes on the right, and Cancelo's numbers have been a lot better in the past on the right versus the left. However, I would also caution that he would probably move left back again when Stones is fit. Right now, he would play right back when Gomez is playing, or maybe Ake could play left back. But I think eventually Stones will be the one who'll take the right back before Walker returns, and then he moves back to left back. So it's not a long-term thing, I don't think. But look, some more minutes from Cancelo on the right is never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing. Yeah. I agree with you fully.
Then other defenders, look, Perisic. So why don't we continue the Spurs talk?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Perisic as a pick?
I think it's a good pick. I think that if you are in the market for a defender with decent fixtures, a fixture in 12, a great fixture in 11, Perisic is going to continue to start, and he was still involved in the Frankfurt game. I think he could have got 1 or 2 assists. He's still getting into the box, so it's a good shout. It's definitely not a dead option at all. So if you're feeling punty, I mean, what a great punt, right? So.
I mean, people are looking for short-term punts. For example, you may want to sell Cancelo after this week for 2 weeks when he plays Liverpool and blanks. Maybe for those 2 weeks you get Perisic. So that could be something. But I think longer term, you worry. When you own Perisic for his minutes, when you don't own Perisic, you're comfortable. So it's not like it's something that you have to sort of go for. But I don't think it's bad, especially now that Royale is out. He should get many more minutes. Even Sessegnon could play on the right, by the way, if Perisic plays on the left, or vice versa. I think his minutes are a lot better.
I think surprisingly, Pras, a lot of our budget's can be spread out just because we're trying to fill out the 12 issue here. So Perisic could also be like a sort of 11th, 12th man in your team if your team structure is set up that way. So definitely not a bad shout in my opinion.
Yep. I'm just looking at some defender questions. So I see Joe is asking if Gomez is a good option from City for a few weeks. I don't think so.
No.
Because Ake could play left back and Stones could be back any minute. So he actually played quite well in the game last night. But
too risky. Way too risky.
Punty, especially at a time when they're going to blank anyway. So why would you go there?
And also, you need that third Liverpool City spot is so valuable right now. Moving into 13. Yeah.
Right. And then the next question is on James. Did James play right wing back? So last night, Chelsea played three at the back. Both James and Chilwell played wing backs, which they do very well. Mm-hmm. So James, for me, I mean, he's amazing. I mean, he for his price, he's 6 million. He would have been good enough at 7.5 at Trent's price. So he's one to keep. He's going to spend a lot more time playing on the wing, whether that is as a right wing back or as a right back. But either way, he's a good option. Chilwell is an interesting one. I was hoping Chilwell starts becoming an option. I just wished that Chelsea's fixtures were a little better. I mean, they're all fine. They don't play any top four team or until they play Liverpool, I think, in game week 14. So their fixtures are okay, but it also is not amazing because they play Brentford away, they play Man United at home, Brighton away, then they play Arsenal at home and Newcastle away. So from game week 12 onwards, it's not so amazing. So I don't know if I want to double up with James and Chilwell, but if somebody wanted to, I think, look, Chilwell has always been an amazing asset. My only issue is he's played a lot of minutes while Cucurella was out. So once Cucurella comes back in, I know that Potter prefers to play Cucurella on the left center back. So maybe Chilwell continues to play. And then there's the World Cup factor where obviously Chilwell wants that spot. Shaw is not putting his hand up. England need a left back. So Chilwell will want to sort of prove himself. So I think Chilwell is a good outside punt.
Okay. Yeah, can I talk about Chilwell a little bit?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so I have a very interesting zonal picture here. And this is against Salzburg. I think it was Potter's first Champions League game. And you can see on the left side, 35%, middle, 17%, and right side, 47%. That's Reece James territory right there. And then you go to yesterday's game versus Milan. On the left, 36%. On the right, 45%, 18% from the middle. So, game state. Tomori was the only, Milan defender that was playing, and he's not great on the ball with the height. Milan had major defensive issues. And they played their backup keeper. So it was an easier game for Chelsea for sure, right? Milan really struggled with the set piece defending. Thiago Silva had like 3 headers, 2 shots on target, and their wing backs were also really like I think backups from what I know. So it was like very easy game for Chilwell and James. That's the game state, right? But Potter ball is sort of on the rise, Pras, and we know Potter as someone that uses his wing backs to the full extent and uses the width of the pitch, and you can see it exactly in these 2 zonal maps, right? Who had the most touches in the Milan game? Reece James with 99 touches, 2 key passes, 84% pass accuracy, 7 out of 12 ground duels won, 1 big chance created, 1 shot on target, and the classic Reece James from the right, kind of goal came out. Who had the second most touches? Ben Chilwell. 80 touches, 2 key passes, 82% pass rate, 3 out of 3 accurate crosses, 7 out of 11 ground duels won. Very, very alarmingly similar statistics to Reece James. Chelsea have issues. Conte still needs to come back. I think Mount is playing too deep. I want Mount to be a little bit more higher. Sterling finishing is as frustrating as can be. But Potter is such a good manager that's able to adapt. Even in the Crystal Palace game, the 4-2-2-2 to begin the game wasn't working, so he switched it up. Put what's his name, Sterling to the left. Robert Loftus-Cheek came in for Jorginho, and RLC had a great game versus Milan. So I love that about Potter. I think that Chilwell is a sleeper of a pick. He's not playing to the level that we want him to be playing at from last season and what we remember. And he's playing on an island on the left and a little deeper than the striker role that we're used to seeing him playing. But I'm actually thinking about bringing Chilwell in this week, possibly. So I like this about what Potter's going to do. I think Cucurella plays the left center back role with Fofana injured now. So one that I'm keen on.
Yeah. Look, I have a deep love for Chilwell, so I don't hate that at all.
Okay.
Shall we go to Trent?
Yep, let's do it.
So we mentioned it at the beginning of the pod. So basically, it's simply looking at this new formation we talked about. We don't need to talk about this whole setup again. I would urge you to watch the T for Football video. I know the guys at The Wire are going to talk about this in detail as well. So the point of this is, in this new formation, if you look at number 66, which is Trent's average. Is that the one you have up, Andy?
The Opta one, right?
Yeah.
Yep, got it. Yep.
So if you look at number 66, that's Trent's average position in the game, which is basically before the halfway line. It has never been the case. that his average position has been before the halfway line. And if you look at number 21, that's Simicas. He's the one bombing forward. So what was happening was they had 3 people defending and one was bombing forward, which a lot of managers have done in the past, but it has never been Trent, the one who doesn't bomb forwards. But in this case, it was happening because if you look at this triangle, the 66, 14, and 32, this is Henderson, Matip, and Trent, they're trying to plug this gap, which all opposition is trying to basically exploit, is basically get in behind Trent and find space and then cross it into the box, or basically make space into the box. They're trying to address this. So what happens with Trent? I have Trent. A lot of people don't have Trent. I don't feel great. But as I said, there is some upside that when Robertson returns, you see this flipping where it's Robertson, the one, because he's a better defender, he's the one who sits back with Van Dijk and Matip or Konate, and Trent is the one that goes forward. It also allows Salah to get in a little bit in the middle. So my analysis of Trent is the same as the one with Salah. If you have him, it's a little bit of an uncomfortable position right now because you don't know where this is going, whether they will defensively improve or they will continue to be sluggish. You don't know if his attacking returns will come. At the end of the day, if you have him, he's on free kicks. He scored over the weekend, over the midweek. He is still on corners. So you're still getting an attacking defender, but be careful that he may not be as attacking. Now, the Tifa football video also said that it doesn't mean that just because Trent is not getting as forward, he won't be in the attacking returns, because Trent is still one of the best crossers of the ball. Yep. He doesn't need to be at the byline to cross the ball. He can cross the ball from the corner of the pitch. If they're basically they've got the other team sort of locked into their box, Trent will still be there. He will be crossing the ball in. So you will get some of that, but whether he's worth his price or not, question mark. I don't know. So as a Trent owner, doesn't feel great right now, especially because he plays Arsenal and Man City, who will pretty much very likely score. But the question is, do you want, and this is a question for everyone, even if you don't own Trent, do you want him onwards of game week 12, which is when he plays West Ham at home, Forest away, Leeds at home, Spurs away, Southampton at home. So 4 of those fixtures are bumper fixtures out of 5. And that's the question. Do you want to have a Trent and an Liverpool attacker in place for that? And therefore, I think as a Trent owner, I'm probably going to continue to hold him. He dropped in value last night. And that's where I would leave it. I would, people who are looking to consider to buy him, you have a nice little 3-4 game week window to see how this new formation works out, if it is even a permanent formation, and then see the implications for Trent.
Yep, I think if you have him, you hold him. If you don't, you're in the luxury position of 2 more game weeks before you decide.
Yeah. All right.
Buzz teams?
Go on. Tell us about your Chilwell and your...
Wow, that went by fast, Pras. Hour and 10 minutes already. Good chat.
Yep.
Okay, I think, my team, right? Okay, so I have, right now, Pope in goal, Trippier, Cancelo, James. In the midfield, Son, Maddison, Martinelli, Zaha. Up top, I have Holland, Mitrovic, Isak. And then on defense, I've got Everson, Zuma, Andreas, and Neco Williams. And 2 free transfers with, I think, 1.1 or 1.2 in the bank. So very interesting position. I love being in this position because I can go crazy, or I can just do one move and then go crazy the next week kind of situation. So I messed around with it a lot. Obviously, the Greenwood one is out of the picture now. So if I do downgrade, I downgrade to Solanke. But after speaking with you, Pras, the Daka one is very interesting. I'll be waiting for news on that because I don't mind taking the punt on him because he won't be a starter every week. He'll just kind of be my sort of Zuma type player. And
yeah, but you need him to start game week 12. That's the problem.
That is the issue. Yeah. So one thing I'll be watching out for it. Yeah, but I think Solanke makes sense. And I don't want to just go to a Wilson or a Welbeck, as you mentioned, or a Aston Villa, what's his name, Watkins, because of the fact that I'd rather try to get to Chilwell. I think I'm very interested in this Chilwell move. So it would be something like Isak to Solanke and then Zuma up to Chilwell, which is, and then I'll still have money in the bank after that. So that's one thing I'm thinking of right now at this moment in time. But definitely not my only option and the one I'm going to go for. Yeah.
And so you're not looking at other funky moves like upgrading Andreas Pereira.
I am. I would love to. I mean that's my initial instinct is to get rid of Isaac to a 4.3, and then I can get anyone I want. I can get Andreas to Bowen, to Foden, anyone below the 8.2 price range. So that is the one that I would do. Except the fact that means I have 4 non-playing players for Gameweek 12 pros.
And what if Mitro and Isaac are both out for long term?
I just haven't thought about that to that extent because I just think I'm going to hold on to Mitrovic moving forward. I mean, one thing I tried doing a Kane maneuver here where I tried to go Mitrovic to Kane and Isaac down.
I'm on Son and Kane right now, man. Come on, it's so 2018.
But no, that's out of the picture. Aubameyang possibly. I looked at Sterling, Firmino, I looked at everything, but the one that I want the most is Bowen. I do like the Bowen's next 3 fixtures. It's just how do I get to him? It's not easy. Yeah.
How much is Skamaka? You've not thought about him?
Not really. I'm not that interested in Skamaka. If I'm being fully honest with
Bowen,
you. Mm-hmm.
He's 6.7, less than Isaac. Fulham at home, Southampton away.
Yeah, but if I go Skamaka, I'd rather go Wilson or Watkins. He's just at that similar price point.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
One
thing I could do is Isak down to a Solanke, Pope down to like a 4.5, and then I could do Andreas to Bowen for a -4. Yeah, that's also possible.
Yeah, but Pope is fine. I mean, this is why I didn't want to spend in the keeper spot. Every time you need money, you think about that keeper. You think, I can get 0.7, 0.8 from here. This is why the keeper, above 5 million keepers are so annoying for this particular reason.
And you know
every time they blank, you go like, this is too much.
Yeah, that I was looking at my keeper clean sheets so far this season, and I spent 5.0 on Ramsdale and 5.1 on Pope, and they've given me 2 clean sheets the entire time. So I hate goalkeepers in general.
Here I am. I got Ward. I played him for the first time.
And you got an 8-pointer. I know. Ward is the one. He's the one.
And if you go to my Pras Team, I'm starting Ward again.
Let's do it. Okay, so we have Pras Team, if you want to read it out for the listeners.
Yep. So I have Guaita and Ward in goal. So I'm starting Ward. And then I'm playing Trippier, Cancelo, Trent, and James. And then I've got in midfield, I've got Zaha, Maddison, Barnes, Salah. And up top, I've got Mitrovic and Haaland. And then on the bench, I've got Guehi, I've got Andreas Pereira, and I've got Greenwood. So the thinking is if Mitrovic is fine, then I don't need to do anything. But at the same time, if Mitrovic is injured, then I can look to get somebody. I really want to hold on to Mitrovic, so I will see what I do. I mean, obviously, I wildcarded last week, so I don't want to get too much into what I want to do. But look, I have not ruled out selling Salah, and I had said that before I got him, that it's not because I captained him last game week and he didn't do anything. It's because I feel like if we're going to be captaining Haaland every week, then what else can I do? So if I did Salah to Foden, for example, what else can I afford anywhere else? So I haven't ruled that out, but I think my favorite move would be if Mitrovic is fit, that I just sort of save the transfer and then evaluate after the Arsenal game what I want to do with the Liverpool guys.
I mean, it's a really good team. But yeah, I get your Salah dilemma. Tough one here.
By the way, also I'm starting Ward over Guaita because simply that I talked about it. Bournemouth are not interested in attacking. So I feel like similar to Nottingham Forest, even though he was very lucky against Nottingham Forest, I felt like Nottingham Forest at least could have scored twice. But look, I think this guy Wout Fass is all right. So they finally have a central defender alongside Johnny Evans. Castagna and Justin are fine. So I think if they have a lot more of the ball, and Leicester are still a good team fundamentally, they do have more possession in these games against the weaker sides. Therefore, you want to back the goalkeeper, even though I still think he's rubbish. So I have a little bit of an insurance if he starts Iverson, but I don't think he will after a clean sheet. I think he'll continue with Ward. I don't mind playing Guaita, but I think Leeds are a more attacking team than Bournemouth, so I'm just going to punt it on Ward again.
I don't mind the Ward start at all. I think Leeds looked fantastic in the first half, and Rodrigo is a sleeper, guys. I really think Rodrigo is a sleeper. So he could be a good option at his price point. I think 6.3 now, and what's
Now that
the deal
Sinisterra is
with
also out.
Bamford? Pros, he came
He's
off in
back.
this.
He played a few minutes.
Yep, yep. Is he just like not going to start, or what's his
No,
deal?
he's just being eased in. They said
Okay.
before the game that he was fit, but then he got a niggle or something else before the game, and so he gave him a few minutes. He's on the cusp of coming back, but with Bamford, you never know. I mean, he's been in and out injured for the last 12 months now,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's a long enough period. But Rodrigo's going to play this week. Sinisterra suspended, but only for one game. So after that, you're back to the whole roulette of who starts between Sinisterra, Aronson, Harrison, Bamford, and Rodrigo.
Yeah,
Only
Bamford looked
forward.
good in his short cameo. Yeah, I think.
If,
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. There's a question by Varun.
Mhm.
If you had Ward, would you start him over Pope this week?
No.
I mean, Brentford are an attacking team.
Yeah, but Newcastle is a dirty good team too. You know.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think on the balance, I would start Pope.
Yeah, I cannot start Ward. I'm just not about that life. You know.
Yeah, man.
Eight
I can tell
pointers.
you, I'm running a 8 points per game thing on Ward. So if you want to get on the Ward bandwagon, same
Um,
with Barnes, 8 points per game. So we'll see.
I
Let's see
love
how
I
it goes.
love that you went for Barnes. That's a good one.
It was a punt, man. It was a
Yeah.
punt. This is why I felt
Yeah.
that it was unnecessary to go Salah over Haaland, because I was already going for Barnes over Martinelli, which in itself is a risk. I mean, this game week, Martinelli could score a brace and I would be completely underwater because he's very highly owned.
Yeah.
So I already took a risk and then I doubled down. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't feel great about that. But I think I'm happy with Barnes for 4 weeks, another 3 weeks.
Yeah. Let's do a couple questions, but just to wrap it up, I just want to say, great pod today, Pras. I enjoyed the talk. I think the biggest thing I want to emphasize is that, we're very used to planning all the time, especially burning questions about planning, and Game Week 12 is a big dent in our planning scheme and grand scheme of things. But with just 7 game weeks left, it's a different type of FPL season. It's a bit of a race. So, in my opinion, don't be afraid to go chasing the player you want, because if you think Foden is down for a haul against Southampton this week, that strategy could be very viable and could work out as well. So try to think a little bit outside the box instead of saying, I'm going to wait 3 weeks before I get on, even though that's where I'm at right now, personally. But yeah.
In moderation, but I do agree with the big picture point that you make,
Yeah.
that normally what happens after game week 1 wildcard, the strategy is to remain cautious, because this wildcard lasts you until game week 30, 35, whenever you're planning to second wildcard.
Yep.
But now you have 7 game weeks. So
7 game weeks.
Pick the ones that you want. And this was one of the reasons why I didn't mind losing a little bit of value on Martinelli. Yeah, I think don't go crazy. The good picks are still good picks for a reason. But if you wanted to sort of be a little bit different, I think, this season allows you to do that. You can then reset everything in game week 17.
Yep. If you could give a subscribe and like button for our FF Scout Burning Question series, that would help us a lot and get us out there more. So really appreciate the consistent viewers. And last week when I was sick, I got a lot of messages asking, and so I really appreciate that. Lots of love in the community. Thank you guys so much for your continuous support. So let's do a couple questions to wrap it up, maybe a couple minutes. Is there anything you see, Pras?
I mean, I only see this question from Jasper. When will I start Guehi ever? Well, I think after Leeds they play Leicester, I might start. I might start Guaita for that. But then in game week 12 they play Wolves at home. Wolves have been fairly poor attacking wise, so I'll play both. My Crystal Palace, the goalkeeper, and Guehi. And then he's got good fixtures throughout. Everton away, Southampton at home. He's always going to be the guy I want to have as first or second sub, not the guy who starts.
Hizami says, "What's your view on Diego Costa? Wolves just a terrible attacking team. They're new manager, and Diego Costa hasn't played for a long time, so probably out of shape. So wait and watch on Diego Costa for sure."
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Andrew's asking Cucurella or Chilwell. I think no
Chilwell.
question.
Yep,
No
Chilwell.
question is Chilwell.
No question.
If you have the funds, they're not the same price, obviously, but Cucurella will play more minutes. But it's not like there's such an elite defense that you prefer that. You want the attacking output.
Yeah, let's help Ryman and his brains out because he's spamming us right now. Salah to Madison or Bowen, or Jesus to Wilson. Wildcard on 13. Salah to Madison.
Well, then you need to get rid of your Arsenal players more than your Liverpool players because you have a Liverpool good game in 12.
So Jesus to Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree. Best 4.5 Fofana placement, Pras, from Akbar Badri.
I mean, I picked Guehi on my wildcard because I think there's solid fixtures as a first, second sub throughout. I think Justin is fine. I think Kilman from Wolves is fine, even though I don't love Wolves' defense. Who else? You've got Webster at 4.5, who's got a good fixture against Forest in Gameweek 12. Nico Williams is not the flavor of the month anymore. Soufal is not the flavor of the month. He missed out this week. Patterson is injured. So Emerson is out. So you've sort of lost the very, very cheapos in your defense. So I think the 4.3, 4.4, 4.5 is all a good option. So I like Guehi, obviously. I picked him.
Okay, fair. I like this question. Someone, Thean, is asking thoughts on Kepa on a wild card. It's very dangerous because we still don't know who's the first choice, but Kepa's starting, and he's Potter's type of keeper, so interesting. 4.4, very, very cheap.
And Potter lies as well, right? I mean, the guy when Sanchez was signed, he kept saying, "Oh, Raya he's due a rest. He's been playing for 2 years." You remember that guy?
Yep.
It was Raya. No, what was it?
No, it was the
Ryan, the Australian guy.
Mm.
And he kept saying, "Oh, Ryan's, he's going to be in soon," and he'll keep saying that. So it could be that he plays Kepa throughout and keeps saying, "Oh, Mendy's back soon."
Yeah.
But equally, he could just switch because Kepa is not that good. A keeper, but then Mendy's form had been terrible before Potter came in, so it's a complete wild card. So I wouldn't go there. I would have loved to go for Kepa instead of Guaita on my wild card, but I didn't do that. It's too punty.
Okay, awesome. Last question. Any interesting ones?
Barnes or Trossard?
Ooh.
Trossard is more talismanic, so it'll require Leicester to score 3 goals for Barnes to get 1. It'll require 2 goals for Trossard. I mean, I'm just using my guess, but I think Trossard is more involved. So I think now, if I was to pick, and if now that the Liverpool fixture is out of the way, ironically Trossard scored a hat-trick in it, but now I would say that Trossard is better because he has the better game week 12 fixture as well. But my problem is my Trossard or Barnes punt was instead of Martinelli, and I 100% want to get rid of that player after, and this is why I wanted Barnes. Trossard has good fixtures even after that, so you may choose to actually keep him longer. It depends on the slot that you're trying to fill.
That's a tough one. I think it depends how long you want to keep him, because I could see Barnes' potential in the next four decent fixtures. So yeah, but I do agree with the talisman theory, and Trossard just the safer pick to say the least.
Yeah, Abdullah wants to basically he's asking Haaland or Salah. Obviously, he wants me to feel the pain again. Yes, of course. It's Haaland.
Yeah.
All right.
Pras, so when are we gonna start posting our ranks on our pods?
Obviously, Andy has to bring it up for the first time. He's overtaken me this season because of my captaincy debacle. But yeah, as soon as I'm back up, we'll post a rank. Look, I think the thing still applies right now. The ranks are still bunched up.
Yep.
It's irrelevant. I think we're both in like 300k, 400k or something. I'm around 400k. I don't even check. I mean, at this point, it's irrelevant.
Yeah,
I don't get people posting ranks and stuff.
Yeah.
How does it matter right now?
The ranks don't mean anything, and plus, you and I know we don't really compete against each other. It's just
Oh no, we do. That's fine.
Do we?
But
Do you?
I'm just kidding.
Okay, okay.
There's always healthy pod rivalry. Come on.
Okay, fine. Okay,
But yeah,
fine.
we always help each other. But it's still it's good. I mean, we'll post rank when we're ready to post rank.
Okay.
When we think that it's right. My gut feel is after the World Cup when half the season has passed, or we could even do it next week. It doesn't matter.
The student is out there to beat his sensei this season. So Pras, I will see you at the finish line this year.
So
We'll
Andy
see.
goes from we don't even compete to the season is out. This. Okay, I hear you. All right.
All jokes aside, thank you so much, guys, and we'll be back next week. It was fun chatting with you as usual, Pras.
All right, man. Take care.